What's up, people? Welcome back. It's been a minute. It's definitely been a minute. Walking Dead. It's crazy though that it's been gone for so long. A few months, even more so if you think about Mothership ending. But now we got all these spin-offs: Dead City, Daryl Dixon, The Ones Who Live, and it's a lot. But hey, we are back. I am Negan, a Walking Dead Universe podcast. It's been on for at least 40 years. That's what it feels like. Still going. We're still here, even for the spin-offs, as you guys know. So thanks again for sticking with us, whether from the YouTube channel over at the Koalition, and of course our website, thekoalition.com, or on Spotify, I Am Negan, and iTunes. Thank you. That's always a big deal for us because when it's a show like this where it's not continuous and not coming back all the time with the mothership and all that, people tend to drop off and they're like, I don't care. But from the numbers, it looks like a large majority of people still do care. And I will dive more into that later on. But yeah, my name is Adam Vale. I'm a senior editor over at thekoalition.com, and I'm joined by the usual cast members of this show. Editor-in-chief Richard Bailey Jr. What's up, Rich?
What's up, Adam? What's up, listeners and viewers?
And Throwdown show Carlos Romero.
Yo, what's going on?
What's going on is that we're back, man. We are back. Right before the recording, setting this up, I completely forgot how to do the whole thing. I was like, oh, wait, what button do I press? Even my OBS was like, we don't even know where your mic is. Do you have a mic? It was pretty funny. But hey, we're back, and I'm glad. And I wanted to get out the way because I was thinking about this, and just like the people watching this or listening, right? We consume podcasts about other shows, and there's a podcast, and I'm going to shout them out on this one. So over at The Ringer, there's a podcast called The Watch, and they talk about what they're watching and shows and stuff like that. So anyway, their producer jumps in and they ask her, what have you been watching? And she says she's been watching Fear the Walking Dead. Right, she started from season 1. Her and her boyfriend are now diving in. Now that we've gone through that, it's had its ups and downs throughout the season. Definitely went off a cliff toward the last. It is what it is. But the thing is that the two hosts of this show were cracking jokes about this. Like, oh, you're watching that? Oh, don't they have this Daryl coming around? And I was like, oh, the Book of Carol, and like goofing on it. It's like, has it become a punchline? And that's the thing that I want to get out there and ask you guys out in the world. Go ahead, leave your comments over on YouTube. When you tell people that you are still watching The Walking Dead, particularly now the spin-offs, do you get a snarky remark? Do they come back like, what? Why are you watching that? There's so many other great shows to watch. How dare you watch these like horrible spin-offs? Do you hear any of that? And go ahead, comment below. But to the guys on the show, Rich, when you tell people, hey, I still cover that show, I like the show, what do you hear from people?
The general question is why? Why are you still covering the show? So
now, are these from people that have watched the first season of Daryl Dixon, or they just hear it and I'm like, oh, come on now?
These are the people that watch The Walking Dead, and they're asking, well, I thought they're saying The Walking Dead is ended. Why are you still watching these other shows? That's what their main point is.
Okay. All right. Carlos, what about you?
It's not much really in depth. It's more of like anybody else that talks about it is usually talking about the moment that they left off or when they dropped off from the whole shebang. Some of them, it's like, oh, I dropped off at season 3 of Mothership. Some dropped off after Sophia. Some dropped off after the prison. Some after Negan, the governor.
Glenn saw the big drop off rating wise.
And then there's some folks that made it to the very end, but yeah, I hardly ever get to talk to anyone that's ever watched any of the spinoffs. Mostly it's just it's the two people in this room right now are the people that I get to talk about from this show or these types of shows.
And that's the thing. It's like, I get it. It's not for everyone. But when I hear these little remarks and then people say, well, spinoffs are never that good. Lies. We had young Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory. That was a spinoff, huge hit. We've had all the Law and Orders, SVU, and Organized Crime, and all those spinoffs. Some of them still going on till this day. Spinoffs are not technically bad. Doesn't mean that, oh, well, we ran out of ideas, so now we just got to make up something else. Like these shows still have main characters from Mothership. I can understand if there were supporting characters in the background, and now they're giving Joe Schmo, who was in like 4 episodes of season 1, his own thing, because maybe he's a big time actor or something like that. But that's not the case here. Daryl and Carol, these are OGs. These are the originators from season 1. They were there. Hell, Daryl is for the show, was never in the comics. So, and the fact that he's still relevant, still here, and has his own show shouldn't come to anyone's surprise. It was like, oh wow, I guess that makes sense, because he was not a supporting character. As much as most people would say, oh well, we had Rick, Michonne. Yes, they were the top billing, but he was just up there with them, and I would argue even more popular when it comes to people, especially to the cons. Who shows up there that everyone's thrilled about? Michonne and Daryl, when they pop up, and people love it. They want to see it. So I'm not surprised by this. Of course, we got with Dead City, that has Maggie, that has, of course, the namesake, I Am Negan, has Negan in it. Again, not weak characters, and it makes sense for them to have their own show. Now, if they say tomorrow that they're gonna give Ezekiel his own show with the Commonwealth, I don't know about that. I don't know if that character with the background and history is strong enough to carry his own show, but I'm just saying the argument is these spin-offs are justified. I don't have to argue about the ones that live, because that had Rick and Michonne. Everybody knows that, and that's why I think that one, viewing wise, rating wise, had the highest numbers. Okay. But when it comes to the spinoffs, and if you people listening at home, if someone says, oh, why bother? Why bother? Because these are main characters that are part of this and are at the forefront of these shows. So it's very relevant. Stop poo-pooing on my Walking Dead.
I will say this. If Ezekiel does have a spinoff, it should be called We Bought a Zoo.
We bought a zoo, and he got some new tigers. Get 2 of them now, 2 badass tigers. And then they just they just kill. They just ravish anything that moves that they don't like. And then put that on Netflix or something so you can get real gory. I don't know. But anyway, let's dive in. I hope everyone is all caught up, not just here, but people listening. If not, we will be spoiling this. So in traditional form, please watch the episode beforehand, because we will be doing a breakdown, a review, our likes or dislikes, and just taking it from there. Also, just note there are 6 episodes to this season. All right, so another short one. That seems to be the new format. Dead City's in the same format, so it is what it is. I'm not thrilled by it, but then again, we were spoiled, right? For years, we had Walking Dead with their 16, 20, whatever it was, episodes per season. So now we have this more, I guess I wouldn't say current standard, but this is more of like the European standard of shows. I mean, we got Slow Horses that also has 6 episode seasons, and there was a few other shows that also do that. So it is what it is. But let's start with Daryl Dixon, season 2, episode 1, The Kindness of Strangers. There's also a French title version translation, but I suck at that, so I'm not even going to bother. So just like we normally do, if you're new, if there's multiple stories, and instead of just saying, oh, we jumped here and then we jumped here, we split them. So here we have 2 stories. We have Daryl over in France dealing with his issues, and then we have Carol back in the States dealing with her issues. I say, and I'll just put that out there for you guys. You tell me which one. We go with Daryl first because it's shorter, not a lot, and then we could just end strong doing all the Carol. Or if you guys prefer, we could just do the deep dive on everything with Carol and then go into Daryl. Up to you guys. What do you want to do? Rich, Carlos?
We can do each other's storylines at a time. That sounds good.
Which one do you want to start with first?
I think the the least. Well, I mean, it's the most consequential to the show right now towards the main plot. But I think it was less relevant, less gripping. This, at least in this episode, is the Daryl storyline.
All right. Rich, you cool with that?
Yeah, Daryl. Started with Daryl.
All right, so off we go. We're back in France. All right, so if you guys don't remember, he was escorting I don't know what we want to call him, the gifted child or something. There is a group that feels that this child is a chosen one, whether he doesn't seem to have any powers, but there's something that they believe, and they still toy with the mystery behind it. We don't know much, but the whole point was to escort the child and his nun, who turned out to have a whole crazy dark past mentioned in season 1, to this island that has a monastery and a bunch of other followers and believers and whatnot. So now that's where they're at. And the opening of that scene is showing, what was it that you named the young wonder kid, Carlos?
He's little Lisa Nagaib, aka little. I'm blanking on his name. Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah, Timothy Chalamet. He does.
He's
look
Baby
like
Chalamet.
All right,
Yeah.
and I like that name, right? So we'll just go with that.
AKA Laurent.
Little Timothy Chalamet. Yeah. So we see him on the beach, and it looks like he's about to get attacked by some walkers. He's trying to fight them off. He's doing a horrible job. Daryl jumps in. He pulls a lever. We see this whole chain king comes up, and it was pretty much a test. He's training Laurent to fight, to defend himself, which makes sense, right? But then later within their little segment part, we have one of the other higher-ups of that group, who's also a badass with the staff doing his thing, talking about, well, that's great and all that. We do this, but you shouldn't be training him because then we want him to focus with this empathy and all that. And we don't want him to get too brainwashed in the whole idea of like fighting. We have a bigger purpose for him. And I'm concerned with this because again, like with the story and with Daryl, who likes to ask questions and likes to be upfront and talk plainly about things, right? That's what everyone likes about him. He doesn't sugarcoat it. He doesn't dance around with his words. He's a man of actually few words. You would think he was like, well, what exactly is he doing here? What do you want from it? You know what I mean? Like, just say it. He doesn't. And it sucks because then we don't know. They just have like this bigger plan for this kid, but nobody knows. And that gets brought up a few times in their segment. And it's like, is he ready? Are we ready? I was like, no, we're not ready. No, definitely not ready. What I don't understand. So I'll ask you guys, what do you think's the story with this kid? Do you think they're gonna try to throw some kind of supernatural element, or you think I don't know. I'm clueless with it. Carlos?
No, I think they're just doing that whole, kid of prophecy, but in reality, he's just a normal kid that is getting put up on a pedestal, just because they want to use him as sort of a proxy in which different factions can go into conflict. I think that's just the whole purpose of it. There's nothing. I mean, we speculated the whole last season. We're like, what does he have superpowers or something? Is he, because we know he was born, when his mom was turning into a walker. So, maybe he has something, we also speculated the whole thing. Maybe it's a sort of Last of Us type of scenario where he might be the cure. But I think, unless they say otherwise, because they haven't really pointed out something. I mean, it's been a while since season 1, so I don't remember if they made.
No, they didn't. They didn't. There's no doctors involved. I can understand if we went down that road. You would think there'd be doctors on this island, like, oh, we're gonna do some blood work. We're gonna test. We got some walkers. Let's see what happens. No, they're not going down that road.
Yeah. So I think he's just a normal kid. Pretty smart kid, but people are using him to push their agendas in the world.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if it's that one guy, if he's just like, oh, I'm playing on everyone here, that they all believe that he's the chosen one, and I'm going to be the one behind him pulling the strings and really manipulate and try to take over this group with him as the figurehead, but really, the mind behind everything. Maybe, But then if that's the case, then I could see them double-crossing Daryl, because clearly he's teaching this kid how to defend himself and stuff, and he's an outsider. So maybe he won't buy into it because he's really not asking too many questions. He remember, for those wondering or don't remember, the job was escort the child to this island. He did it, and in return, he was going to get a boat and then go off to America. Well, that didn't happen, and they don't know next time they're going to get a boat and the whole thing. So he's still just hanging around trying to do this. But then we find out that they have also found out that the people that were captured from season 1, there was a group of them. If you remember, there was a guy with a nice gray beard, nicely trimmed, shaved head, and everything. Well, it's all nice and cleaned up still in this one, which always baffles me. I hate that. I just want to see the grit. It's like that whenever it's like, oh, someone's been trapped in a cave or something for a few episodes, and they come out and their teeth are nice and clean and they're not dirty or anything. No, just put the grit on. Just make it seem like you're all disheveled and dirty. That's what I want. But we never get that. Everybody's all nice and clean for these things. And even Daryl, when I was complimenting that coat, as you see him walking around talking with the nun, talking about, oh yeah, we need to come up with a plan. I got to go and save these people and all that. I'm like, I was so distracted by his hair, which is very nicely kept and layered, and with that nice trench coat. Or I said 3/4. It was a little longer than 3/4, but it was just very distracting to see his outfit. And I was like, wow, that's great. I like where he's going with this. But I don't know, before I ramble anymore, before we get to the meat and potatoes of his part, what did you guys think of just that whole setup there of what's going on with the island, with Daryl being stranded there? Do you think he's going to get off? Do you think they have a plan to get rid of him, or are they just using him to be their muscle?
Well, I think it's going to create a conflict like we've been seeing with the leader dude, with the dude with the stick, and Daryl. There's sort of two different sets of people with ideologies. One of is a self-proclaimed pacifist, and Daryl is more, in his go guns blazing.
Yeah. I'll tell you.
So I think they're setting up that. I'm not sure how. I mean, they obviously have a villain. We saw it later on in that episode. She's still there and she survived.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious to see how they're doing this whole thing where Daryl is sort of the opposition of the leader, and I'm wondering if they ever decide to kill that leader, if it creates a vacuum for Daryl to take place, and he's like, oh, well, you need to be there. But maybe it just in the end, Daryl's just gonna drag his butt back to the States. He's like, all right, you had your fun. Time to come back with Ash Ketchum.
Yeah. We'll see. So as we said, there's not a lot, and you guys already watched it. There's not a lot. So then once this part ends, and then he agrees, he was like, all right, well, let's go. I think it was Mathis, one of the other members of this group, says, hey, I know where they're transporting. We're going to set this trap. We're going to set some bombs on the road. It's going to go off and blow up the first car. So then, or at least stop the first car, which is escorting the truck that has their buddies. Well, they're there. They're waiting for this, and it doesn't go off. And they're like, oh, it didn't work. And Daryl does what Daryl does, and it's like, F it. He takes his gun out. Boom, boom, boom. Awesome shot right to the forehead. Drops the driver. Nice scene with the car flipping over and the whole thing. That was great. He runs in, guns blazing, him and the other guys, and they're just taking everyone out. They open up the back. We see all our old friends from season 1 at the end, all the rebel fighters. Hey, we're here. The guy was talking about with the bald head and a nice beard. Well, same thing. Bald head, nice beard. Great. But what we also see returning from season 1, episode 1, the young lady that was with the older gentleman that double-crossed Daryl when he first landed in France. And she's there. Now we know that she joined up with that other group. I remember they showed her in a few scenes where she was part of that group, or she agreed to help them, right? And that was fine. But now it's like, pop, she's there. And what's great is like she's like, oh, of course you're the one that did all this, and she's doing all this stuff. And while she's talking her smack, he's just loading up his shotgun. He's like, yeah, keep talking. He loads up, and it was so funny too because I'm like, is he gonna blast her with like this double barrel right there? And sure enough, he is. You see him lining up. He gets the gun out. I'm like, oh, this is Daryl. He's pissed. He's not gonna like, hey, just get on the ground. We're gonna question you. That's something Rick would do. No, Daryl was gonna put her in the ground. That was his intention. But TV trope, and we all did some big explosion out of nowhere happens behind him, distracts him. He turns back. She's gone. So right here, I think it was fun. I like that, at least the action scene, the setup. I get it. I see where they're going with all this. But then it also sets up for that character, the female character that ran off. I got to look up her name again. That she's going to play a major role, I'm thinking, come this season. Because she really didn't last season. We thought she was when she ran off and all that stuff and joined the group. But she didn't really do much. So, Rich, what did you think when you saw all this? Were you like, oh, this is the new bad, or she's going to be the sneaky one that's always in the way or causing problems or something?
Yeah, when they introduced her last season, that I think that was very clear that was the other person that was really in charge, because she had the other villain from last season now working for her. So I wasn't surprised to see her show up. And I also wasn't surprised to see her get spared, because there's not any other villain that they've introduced yet that they need to worry about. So I did think it was cheesy how she escapes that quick and no one knows where she's at. So let's find out the next episode where she went. But I wasn't surprised by it. I just figured, yeah, they don't have any other villain set up. I do think it's possible that the guy that is in charge, he has some type of deal with her people that could be revealed later on, that he is actually involved, even though he is not a violent man, or so he says. So yeah, but there has to be some type of swerve coming, I would imagine, regarding his character. But yeah, in terms of everything else, yeah, I wasn't surprised to see her survive.
You don't trust him, Rich?
Absolutely not. Never trust a guy with a stick.
Yeah, yeah, and it was kind of weird too, because if we go back a little bit during that part where he's over here whooping these two guys' asses with his staff, and then he does a little conversation with Daryl, but then you see him put down the stick, and then as Daryl's walking away in the background, you hear the sticks clattering, like you hear him fighting again. You're so I'm like, I don't know, did he stop? Did he pick it up again, or were the other two? I don't know. It's just weird audio to add right after that scene. But yeah, that was pretty much it when it comes to their whole section for Daryl. And that was fine, because, I mean, what did people really want to see in this episode? They wanted to see Carol. They wanted to see, because that's how the last season ended off, with Carol and finding the guy. And it's like, all right, pointing the gun. It's like, all right, now you're going to take me to where you got this bike, that type of thing. And that's what we wanted to see. But, yep, that is it for Daryl and his situation. So far, we know he's in France. He saved his buddies. They're on the island. And that's it for that. And that woman is still alive. Okay, now let's flip. Let's get to what we really want to talk about. Carol. How does Carol end up in France?
It's her book, after all.
It is her book. This is her story. I'm not sure. All right, before we go into this, I'm just wondering, do you think that it's going to be one of those type of things where they're not going to, Carol and Daryl, reunite until the last episode of this season? Do you think they're going to pull something? Because from what we saw right at the end, no spoilers or anything for the people that are watching, just there's, flash screens, little montage or whatever. It shows a lot of action, but I don't see them together. We don't see Daryl and Carol together. So I'm just wondering, because it's just showing stuff that is probably going to happen beyond, through just showing us throughout the season, not particularly episode 2. So do you think it's going to be one of those where you don't see them reunite till the very end, sort of like what we saw with The Ones Who Live and with Judith and Mom and Dad and the whole thing?
I think that, I mean, we have only 6 episodes and we're already done with 1. So we have 5 episodes left. I think it's going to be the last episode. They pulled, like you said, they pulled it off on on the last spin-off show with the
with the
Michonne and
the
Rick.
Judith and yep,
Yep,
Rick Michonne and yep.
and Rick Jr.
Mhm.
I think they'll do the same for this. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. All right. All right. Here we go. So we see that Carol shows up over at the little biking group. I don't even know what to call them because it's not like it's a gang, but they're like working on cars and doing something because she was driving around. She has her binoculars. She's on the bike, that she picked up, which is Daryl's bike. And so she sees these guys. She scopes them out. She said, they're not armed or anything. If they are, they're not really showing it. It's not one of those type of camps. It just looks like a bunch of mechanics out in the woods fixing stuff. She pulls up. She says, hey, I need to fix my bike. It's got some issue with the transmission. They're like, oh, you're whatever jabroni guy's girl. And she's like, yeah, sure I am. That's the guy who was riding Daryl's bike. And they're like, oh, nope, I don't know how to fix it. What about you? I don't know how to fix it. But wait, didn't he get it off of that other guy? And they remembered Daryl's last name, at least Dixon. They bring that up. She asks about it. And then one of that same guy starts mouthing off, talking all this smack about Daryl. You don't do that around Carol, and that was enough for her to just whip out the crossbow. And it was like, what you say? Pull one of those moments. And it was like, you tell me what my friend is. And just like as we've seen in previous seasons of Walking Dead Mothership, people always underestimate her. They see her, oh, she's not that tough. She's all, talk. She's not. No. That's not how Carol rolls. Because once the guy starts mouthing off to her, what are you going to shoot? He takes one to the leg. He takes another one. She's pointing it around. She's swinging. She's like, you tell me what I need to know. And even the story sounds crazy. So some French people show up saying that they want American walkers to bring back to France. And they pointed to a camera shot to a French flag up on a pole on the tree. And I'm like, what? I get it. This was always going to be tricky. This is always going to be tricky, people. And you know it. If you watch this show, you were always wondering, how do you explain all of this? First, it was, how do you explain Daryl getting to France? That was a little tricky, but hey, we accept it and move on. Now you're doing the same thing with Carol. How do you explain this? But at least when they tell her the story, she's like, all right, now you're not even being serious. She shoots the guy again. She's like getting into the whole comment. She thinks they're all full of it. This just sounds crazy. But they swear, no, this is it. They just hired us to take these people, and he got on that boat with another buddy of ours, and we don't know if they're ever coming back. They left. At that point, guy takes his knife, throws it. That's the whole thing. There's a little fight, but she gets the upper hand. And they were like, okay, fine. You win. What do you want? And she was like, I'm taking that car. And I'm going to find out where. Because they were like, where the boat is. She says they tell her where the boat is. Or at least where the boat docked. So before I go any further, what did you think about this action sequence here? This encounter, meeting with these guys, and how they explained what was going on. Carlos, did this work for you? Like this whole thing with the Carol and just setting it up for her to start her adventure?
I'm to a couple of things. Number one, I'm surprised when he said the black dude. He said, "Oh, it's only a boat only came out once."
Yeah,
I'm like, really? You guys got a flag? What? They just came once and they got the flag and that's it?
Yeah, it was weird. And if you remember that season, there was like a whole setup. Like there was a whole camp. They had building structures and planning. It seems, how do you even assemble other people to work for you like that for just one? I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah, and number two, I just find it weird that there's a mechanic shop. It looks like a mechanic shop, and no one has a gun.
Yeah. No gun. And it was just very random. Like, what are you doing here? What this? I don't know. It was weird. Very weird.
I like that he shot him in the leg though, in the foot.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Now moving.
She means business.
Carol is no joke. So she gets to the yard, well, to the dock, I should say, and they do this nice overhead shot. You see all these abandoned and damning ships and boats and whatnot, and there's no working boat, which is also funny because, like, all right, she's there, but what are you gonna? What, she was gonna find a boat and start rowing to France? Like, because that was one of the questions people that actually care about the show were wondering. I was like, how is she gonna get to France? She's gonna get on a boat, right? Maybe this is gonna be a routine. But like you just mentioned, that guy said they only came once and then they were gone. So it's not like, oh, they're coming back tomorrow for another haul of American walkers, and maybe you could find out. And that's what I was thinking. Maybe she would stow away on that boat and go back to France with them. But this clearly wipes that off the table because, as you could see, no, there's no way this is happening. And so she's like, oh, she's stuck. She doesn't know. But
yeah, I thought if I were a betting man, I would have bet that she would have gone through a boat, and I'll be like, oh, there's a boat that comes around once a month or once a quarter or something, once a year, and then that would have been a much easier way to get her to that place. But it feels like the writers wanted to incorporate another character and his backstory and stuff like that.
Oh, look, we'll get into that.
It made it much easier to do that.
So she gets back in the car, right? So she's driving, trying to figure out what to do next. The car is old, has a tape deck playing old songs. She's checking them out the window. One tape gets stuck. So it happens to be one of those self-help relaxation, breathe in, breathe out, relax. And she's just pissed because she sort of hit a dead end. She doesn't know what to do now. And it's like, all right, well, the boat's gone, and this France thing sounds crazy, but what else could it be? And then all of a sudden, see this small. What kind of plane would you say? That's like a crop duster? Is that?
It looks like a crop duster, but it does have two seats in the front. I'm not a.
I think we're not. Yeah.
But the crop duster is normally like a solo type of plane. So
a 2-seater.
So it's a little bit bigger than one of those, but not by much.
Yeah, small plane, fits 2 people, but she sees one fly over, and it's like, wait, wow, I haven't seen one of those in a minute. And she sticks her head out. She's looking, not paying attention to the road. Never do that, people. Eyes on the road. What happens here? She hits a walker. She swerves. She hits a tree, bonks her head. And there goes that. So now she's out on foot, but she follows from where she saw this plane, and it leads her to what looks like a farm compound, fencing, lights, everything. There's only one guy living there, which, I mean, we see him right off the bat, and she scoped it out, and which is great. That's how Carol rolls. She doesn't just run in there. She was scoping out. There's only one guy there. She makes a little noise. He turns around with his flashlight. No one there. So she gets close to the fence. He sees her, identify herself, go away. She explains she got hurt. Please, I'm hoping people can help out still in this crazy time, all this stuff. She says she's alone. Well, she doesn't even confirm she's alone. Like, I think if I was him in this situation, and if I ask you, are you alone? And you just like nod your head, that's not confirmation. Okay. I need verbal confirmation. I mean, yeah, there's no law enforcement or anything now in this time here, but if there was, I don't know if that would hold up in a court of law if you shot this person, because then they were like, well, did they say they were alone? I was like, well, they nodded their head, No, you should say. And she never does, but whatever. He's like, all right, fine, I'll let you in. And this is where it gets interesting. And I brought this up, and then we'll discuss this, how you felt about this. It was a good callback. Is once they get in, she needs a med kit, does that whole jazz. And he says, well, you could stay in the barn tonight, and then you can leave tomorrow. All right. And so she goes to walk with him to the barn, and then poof, we get these flashbacks. Sophia, season 1, where Daryl and them are looking, and they find over on the farm, and it's like, oh, there's a bunch of walkers. We stored them in there, and then So when Sophia comes out, so she's getting these flashbacks. So I'm assuming like this is the first time she's seen a barn since all of that happened. But man, that was, as we saw in the post, they showed that they actually recreated that. That was not the actual scenes from season 1 of when Sophia walked out the barn. Because we wondered, at least I was wondering, I was like, oh, you're going to show me the face? I remember there was some great shots, camera shots, of seeing Sophia in frame and Carol, and just like that grief on Carol's face, like shock, that it was like, oh, my daughter that we were looking for this whole time, and there you are, had been stored in a barn as a walker. But no, we didn't get that angel of the face, but they still really quick flashes just emphasize what was going on in her emotions, and that was really cool. So what did you guys think, Rich? What did you think when you saw that? Did you get the feels? Did it bring back the memories?
Well, actually, yes. This past weekend, I actually started watching The Walking Dead again, season 1, and I was on season 2 the other day. So I just want to make this comment. I don't think there will ever be a Walking Dead show better than what they did those first couple seasons of Walking Dead. That was fantastic.
Great.
I like what they did with, the reference to her daughter. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's when as soon as I saw the cabin, I knew where they were heading. When I saw the angle of how they shot it, I knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, the barn.
The barn. So yeah, I think that was a good callback for those that if they watch the Walking Dead show, or maybe they may be curious to learn more about that, they definitely should go back and watch that show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What about you, Carlos? Did you get teary-eyed? Are you like, Sophia?
It just brought back flashes to the first season. I like the way they incorporated it. Yeah, I'm like you. I'm surprised it's the first time she's been to a barn since then, at least from the show's perspective. Didn't drop a tear. Obviously, I didn't get into my feels like it did Rich. Made him want to rewatch the first couple of seasons. But yeah, it was a good scene. I like the fact that, it brought back this whole like, two people can trust each other, and be decent people, and not just be like every other kind of interaction where it's like, oh, what am I trying to get from you, and how can we cross each other's backs with something.
Yeah. It was touching. It was very touching, and a good callback for those who have been watching, especially Mothership. So that was great. But also that what happened during this time is that there was the generators cut out, and we see the power and everything goes out. And this is where my first complaint for this episode occurred, because the generators go out. The generator goes out, I should say, and then the lights and everything. And he says, "Oh, don't worry about it. It happens. I'll fix it." He should also mention that when this happens, the front door unlocks, because that's just locked through the magnetic, through the electricity and the whole thing. It's not actually just a physical lock. I get there's too many words in that, and it would be too much to explain, especially for what happens afterwards. But it's just, you would think something he would mention, or at least if he doesn't mention, once the generator goes out, would first run over to the gate area and maybe reinforce it with I don't know, a 2x4 or something to keep that door to his compound area locked, secured. But he doesn't mention it. You just see him run off to go fix the generator or whatever. And at first, if you're watching this, when that happens, you're like, all right, whatever, he went to fix the generator. They don't mention the lock. There's no quick camera shot to the lock or anything, but in the next scene, when they come back, he starts talking about, what are you doing out there? She starts telling her all the stuff, I'm just out there, I was hurt, I was my family. And he's like, well, that's great and all, but I got to go fly. I do my flight at 3:00. He doesn't say what he's looking for or anything. But she says, hey, well, I need my car. Can you help me fix my car? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I'll fly over when I do my rounds, and I'll see if I see any abandoned cars, and then maybe we can go get some parts and do a whole thing out of this. And then even that sort of throws me off because it's like I've been in a bunch of planes. I think we all have, and it's like, granted, he's not going that high, but still, if he's done this route, he said it. I don't go that far. I don't venture off far. Then you know what's on the road. You know all the activity, all the cars. You've seen the same 3 cars on a bus on, Route 44 or whatever. He knows where that stuff is. It's just weird. And then his alarm started going off, and he was like, "Oh, I gotta go. I gotta go." So it brings these questions of like, where is he going? Why is he doing it? I don't know about you guys, but I was thinking at that point that he was searching for someone or waiting for someone that said that they were going to show up. And that's why he flies around, because he's waiting to see if he sees their vehicle, or maybe it's stalled or got attacked or something. And then he has an idea of where he needs to go to do the rescue. That was what I was thinking of his reasoning for flying around. What about you guys? Did you think there was a reason for him to fly this plane? Carlos?
I think, well, 2 things. I don't want to forget the point you made earlier. An episode, we've seen so many Walking Dead episodes. Like we tolerate a certain number of eye rolls per episode. Maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 eye rolls per episode. This one kind of teetered on the brink. That whole thing where the power goes out, or there's a surge or something, and it temporarily makes the power go out, but the door just opens, and somehow, like, it always opens. It happened multiple times in this episode, so we know every time there's a power outage, the door opens. Except the first time it went out. There was I think it went out like 3 or 4 times, and the first one didn't go out. The door did open, but this time, like, every time Carol's by herself, the power goes out, the door opens. So I'm just surprised why, just thinking logically, why didn't he have like something that shut the door down or kept it a little bit more, tight before, so if anything goes up with the power, the thing doesn't open. Also, the lock doesn't make sense on the greenhouse. Normally,
we'll get to that.
So yeah, I just don't like, I sometimes you suspend belief, but sometimes it can get pretty egregious, and I feel like this is one of those instances where it was super egregious just to get convenient. So yeah, wasn't a big fan of that. As far as him flying around, that's one of those things where I can live with. He's like, I sacrifice all the noise, and I'm like, man, if this dude is flying every day, is I'm surprised he doesn't have a whole herd, like as big as the ones that we've seen in some of the other shows.
Yeah. And then that's leading up to the next part of this, because he leaves her there, and I would have thought, and again, if I was him and his name is Ash, that I would have said, hey, you know what? I'm going to go fly around. How about you jump in? It's always good to have another set of eyes. You tell me if you see any vehicles or anything that look like they're intact that we can scavenge, because she said she banged up the car, maybe messed up some parts or whatever. That makes sense. But no, he leaves her there alone while he just flies around for just whatever, because this is what he was going to do anyway. But he leaves her there. So, of course, she's going to wander around, try to look and see what's going on. She goes to the greenhouse, as you mentioned. That's where we see this nice tree inside there. And then there's a plaque, and it's for his son, which we also find out. There's AP, who had died. But while she's there, generator goes out. As you just mentioned, the front door opens, because it functions through the power, and there just so happens to be a stack of walkers just hanging out there. You would have thought they heard all these walkers hanging out at the gate, but whatever. It's this TV, right? And so they push through. She doesn't realize it. She's just looking around. She finds a little music box. She's listening to that. She's getting all, just getting more into the memories, listening to this. And all of a sudden, all these walkers come into the greenhouse. they start attacking her, and she puts two of the shelves together to sort of like make a little barrier, climbs up to the top, smashes through. Really cool scene. All of this was very cool to see visually. And then all of a sudden, poof, surprise, the Ash already had landed. So they cut to the next scene. They killed the walkers. Everything is fine. But he was like, why'd you do this? How'd you do this? She apologizes. Why apologize? She did absolutely nothing besides go into the greenhouse. She didn't open up the gate. She didn't try to sabotage his whole thing. But he's blaming. It's like, you shouldn't have been in here. Why would you go in here? It's a greenhouse. You might have fresh tomatoes or something. She could be starving. We don't know. I know I would have gone into the greenhouse if we got like carrots or something. But anyway, this is where it gets more eye rolling. I'm sorry. This is it for me. This was a big one. But you know what? I'm jumping the gun. It wasn't this particular scene, but it's the one after this scene. So once he's there, she sees the plaque. He starts talking about it. Yeah, my son. It's a reminder. The mom left. She did not die. She just left them way before all of this fell apart. And it sounds like he found this area. And while he was fixing it up, building it into the compound that it is, he wasn't keeping an eye on his son. And I guess his son got attacked and died. So he buried his son there. And that was sad. That was the whole sad thing there. But the part that really gets me is that when they go back into the scene where she's like, all right, I'm just going to leave. I'm going to clean up here and then I'm out. So after she's cleaning up, fixing things, and he says, hey, listen, just come have dinner with me. And then he gives this crazy story. Okay, this is the eye rolling. So his son liked planes, but he never went flying. They never did any of that. So one day while he's out and about, this is Ash, he sees this old plane and says, you know what? I'm going to bring that back and fix it. They don't explain how he's able to bring this plane back to his compound and fix it. That also means then he would have to create a runway for this plane, because if you wanted to first think, oh, well, this is an abandoned air station, or, this is an abandoned hangar and this and that. No, that's not what this was. And we know that also later on when it was brought up in the post. But it's just, okay, we'll put that aside. And then he says, then I taught myself how to fly. So not only did he teach himself how to fix this plane, I guess he found some books, whatever, but also how to fly this plane. And then we also find out, and I'm just going to, because it ties into it, how to make fuel for this plane. So he taught himself how to fix a plane, how to fly a plane, how to create fuel for the plane. And all he does is fly around like a buzzard around a corpse. And that's all he does. He has no plans of going anywhere, saving anyone, doing anything productive besides what he just did. And that was so eye-rolling. I was like, why? And I know, and I bring this up, and I said it before, and I've said it in other episodes, when I have a critique, I always come back with my vision of what I think makes sense. Why couldn't they just say he was a pilot? Why couldn't they just say this was an abandoned hangar and that he decided to go back because this is the only area he knew that was already fenced off? So he figured this would be safe. And then he left it open one day, or there was a hole, and that's how his son got bit and the whole thing. And, he still goes flying around looking to see if there's other people he can help, whatever. They could have done that backstory. But to add this story of that, we don't know. It's clearly he's some form of engineer. You just can't be a Joe Schmo and say, I'm going to fix a plane, teach myself to fly, and make fuel. Sorry, doesn't work that way. But the backstory is horrible for Ash. Is the point. It's horrible. Carlos, Rich, did you see any issues with that? Or is it just me overthinking again and just asking too much from this show?
So let me say right now, I agree 1000%. His backstory is horrible. I think what you said about him being a pilot, that makes perfect sense. He could have been a pilot that lost his passion for doing this after his son got killed. I think that makes a lot more sense as a story for them to tell. this character's only purpose is to help Carol get to her destination. And I'm pretty sure you're going to touch upon this, but I will say this. I do not like how Carol is using Sophia's death to try to connect with him and his son's death to convince him, hey, why don't you help me get to Paris? Why she wouldn't just tell him, I'm trying to find Daryl. I don't understand that at all. But that was basically used to basically get him to agree, to understand from her perspective, and to get him to agree. So I do expect there's going to be a scene at some point this season where he finds out the truth, that she lied to him about this. Mm-hmm. And I want to see what happens once that is revealed.
We know why. It was to pull the heartstrings. Once he said the story about his son and all that stuff, that was the open door. Because then he can relate when she says, my daughter. And then, as you guys know, you've watched it, and what happened following all this is that she says, that the story that, my husband, horrible marriage, but we had a beautiful daughter. And then he took her to France and the world went to poop and I was stuck here. And man, if only I could see her again. And that's when the light bulb goes off in his head. He's like, you lied to me. You just want me to fly you to France. And she was like, yeah, but if AP was alive somewhere, wouldn't you want to go? I know he's dead. And he's just flipping out in the whole thing. But that was clearly the moment that she did it because of what she found. Now, if she didn't know about AP, his son dying, and didn't find that information out, what would be her reason? Would she have come clean? And how do you explain that? Hey, listen, I got this friend. There was some group of people from France. They wanted American walkers. I'm not sure how he ended up on this boat, but they took him to France. Hey, can you fly me there real quick? That doesn't work. That would not entice me if I was Ash to help out, because that makes no damn sense unless you're like, this is my brother or husband or something more connected. It just doesn't work for me. But
that's one of the things that I eye roll number 4 of this episode, where they start off like they clearly make him out to be a good person. Obviously Carol's a good person, and they kind of realize that they're both good people, so they trust each other. And then her coming up with this lie, it's like, we need to create this lie, like you guys mentioned, because we need conflict at some point later on in the season, where it's like, Ash figures out that Sophia is dead, so now he's like, why did you do this to me? And it's like, we see what's coming, and we don't want to see this. This is pointless. If Carol wanted to lie, just lie and say, my husband Daryl is, or the love of my life Daryl got kidnapped in France.
Yep.
That would have been more believable, and it would have been a better lie to make, because you really do love him. But be like, oh no, it was just at the end. All you can just say, no, I love Daryl. I went all the way to rescue him. It's just a platonic relationship. and that would have been it. But no, you lie about Sophia, and it's kind of like you could. I just don't like that they're using this to create conflict later on, and it's like so predictable, and it's so something that always happens in all these shows, and I wish they wouldn't have done it. I wish they would have went at it a smarter way or something different.
Yeah, because even if this doesn't work out, and even when, let's say, right after that he flips out, it's like, that's it, you got to leave. I'm done. I'm not doing this. In the morning, just get out, just go. Blah blah blah. It's like, well, what are you doing? You introduced this character, Ash, has a plane, has a secure compound, and does nothing. It's like, there's no reason for him to stay. It's not, in some ways, I sort of think back of season 1 when Rick met Morgan. And remember, Morgan was all barricaded around the house at the booby traps and had lost his mind, pretty much. Didn't want to go out. Didn't want to listen to Rick after shooting him, the whole thing. Didn't want to leave. Rick was like, come on, let's go. This is not healthy. Shouldn't be here. No. He was nuts. Ash is not nuts. And someone say, well, he's grieving. It's like, I don't know really if he's grieving, because then why is he flying the plane everywhere? If you're grieving, you sleep and live next to that tree in the greenhouse with your son's plaque in his body, I'm sure, buried under there. It just doesn't fit. And we knew this was going to be tough. We knew it was going to be tough. I'm sure the writers knew it was going to be tough, because they were like, how do we explain this? But let's just come up with something. Let's push it out, get it over with, and then voila, we're all in France, and let's move on. What about the fuel? He makes the fuel. We said it. Don't worry. Well, it's a small plane. He'll figure it out. And sure enough, there is another scene where he starts talking about how he's fueling up and creating another fuel line to store extra fuel in the whole thing. And they may make a stop. It was over Greenland or something like that. He was talking about, we're already plotting like where they're gonna make stops and stuff like that. To go over, because did I jump the gun? I think I did. I'm looking at my notes. That's right. Whoop, rewind. So Carol next morning is leaving. She's out on the road. She's walking. Ash, no surprise, or else the story's over for this, shows up with the truck, and he says, all right, you want to do this? And you think she's alive. He's like, I gotta find out, right? She still goes along. Carlos, to your point, at that point, she should have really came clean and says, well, we're all being honest now, because you caught me with this one lie. I should tell you, my daughter died a long time ago, but this is my BFF that I need to go find. And he was kidnapped in France. We're clean, hands clean. You know me. I know you. Let's go. No, she doesn't do it. He still says, oh, well, there's nothing else here for me to do. And because you're not doing anything, jabroni. You're just flying around your compound doing nothing. So, yeah. So anyway, now he's all gung-ho about it. He was like, all right, we got a lot of work to do. Let's fix this. Let's pack up this. They're preparing for their flight. There's one scene, if I was an editor, and I'm in this room, and like we're looking at all the boards, I'm like, all right, we got this. Well, I would have cut the next scene out. The scene where we see Ash, they just mentioned, talking about the fuel line and adding more fuel and all this stuff. And she says, are you sure you want to do this? And he's like, well, yeah, we need more fuel. This. Like, no. I mean, this trip. Are you okay with doing this? That's the wrong time to ask. You finally got him on your side from your big lie. He's agreeing to doing it. He's all 100%. Look at that. He's making sure they have fuel for it and they just don't fall out of the sky into the ocean. And now you're like, hey, do you want to back out now? Like he's going to say yes. If they do, roll the credits, because Carol never makes it to France. So we know it's not going to happen here, which is why if I was editing, I would have snipped that scene right there. I'm like, nope, don't need it. Don't need what? For another emotional connection or time? No. Unless this is a moment where she comes clean. Are you sure you want to do this? Because I have something else to tell you. I'm full of it. And this is a lie. No, they don't do that. I would have cut that scene. And go straight to the ending scene for this whole segment, which I think was fantastic. I liked it. Right? We never really got to see the runway, and I get it, set designs, this and that. You can't do everything, right? But we see where he's loading everything up. They decide to fly out at night. I don't think that's the best, but hey, I think they did that.
Oh no, they were just packing everything up to be ready for the following day.
That was it. I was wondering, because I was like, why are they flying off at night? That doesn't seem smart. Just wait till the daylight. But all right, there you go. That explains that part. So they were still packing up, but there was no storm or anything. But like you said, with the generator, perfect timing. It cuts out. He didn't learn his lesson from the last time. For someone who is very good with engineering and preparing and doing all this stuff, you'd think he would have took a look at the door and said, oh, wait a minute, that's right. When the power goes out, the door opens. You know what? Since I know we're not using that door again, let me reinforce with some of these plywoods I have hanging around so that way we can get ready and take off. No, he doesn't do that. So once the power goes out, just like it happened before, gate opens, ta-da, all your neighbor walkers that were hanging around, which no one heard, decide to just bum rush in. So they come running in and they were like, what are we going to do? We're not fully loaded and ready. We got to go. They get on the plane. She's panicking. She's never been in a plane before. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. They started triggering memories for Carlos of fear when this happened. Remember, same
Oh
type
yeah.
of deal, getting in the plane, the walkers, and all that stuff. So they get in the plane. There was some really cool scenes here. I liked these scenes where you see the plane going off. It's trying to get onto the runways. It's taxiing, and then it's just mowing down. The propellers are mowing down some walkers. The wings are bumping into walkers. It's a lot going on here, but it's making its path. And poof, it takes off on their adventure. And I thought when she closed her eyes and it was like breathe in, breathe out. And that's what we heard from the tape from within the car. I thought that's what it was, but you guys corrected me. No, that's not it. That was coming from Ash over the headset and saying, hey, we're safe now. We're up in the plane and the whole thing.
Mhm.
So before I go any further to the closing, what did you guys think of that scene? That was a really good action scene. I like the set design. That's one thing. I really like the audio work in this episode. There's a lot of heartbeat and sound effects and stuff going on, especially that one part where Carol showed up at the compound and there's like boom, 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 almost like a quake. If you guys played Quake and from 9 Inch Nails did the soundtrack, but it had that boom, boom. It's like your heart beating. You don't hear anything else. You're nervous because she doesn't know what's going to happen when she got there. Is this guy just going to shoot or whatever? But anyway, I just liked the set design. I liked everything about this final scene here. What about you guys?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that last scene. I felt like they did a really good job. I'm just curious to see what's gonna happen next. Next is the next episode a Greenland episode for Carol. It looks like continuing on. I feel like they're gonna keep doing this split screen TV viewing where half of it is gonna be the Carol show and half of it is gonna be the Daryl show. Which, quite frankly, I feel like it should have been like that. Maybe last season.
Yeah.
At some point last season, but glad they're doing it now because I feel like if they focus too much on one character, it'll just fall apart. Because
Yeah.
like substance isn't there as much. So if they can split it up and create at least two decently intriguing storylines, then I feel like that's good enough. Yeah, the flight scene was good. I like the way when they go above the clouds. I even asked the question. I'm like, "Yo, can these small planes get up there that high?" I don't know. I'm not a pilot, but it just seems like they're always low to the ground. But who am I to judge?
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, even in the post, for those who have AMC Plus, if you go on and you watch the version that's on there, and that's the version we were watching, they do a little behind the scenes and they discuss it with oh man, I'm blanking on his name, dude with the long hair who did all the directing and set up the scenes, the fight scenes. So for this
Greg Nicotero?
Yeah, there you go. And he talked about that. They did research. Can this plane actually do some kind of flight like this? And it can. It's not encouraged to do. It's not safe. It could cause all kinds of problems because you're going over the ocean, the salt water hitting the materials, all that stuff. Because like you said, it can't fly as high as a commercial airline that takes these long flights. So it can happen, but it's not recommended and it's very risky. So I'm assuming that they are going to make that stop and maybe make a few more stops along the way before they get there. I just hope this doesn't turn into, for those old timers like myself, remember the show Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Where you would go and have to figure out, it was a game show on PBS and you had to figure out all this stuff to figure out where she is. And once you get there, she just left. And it's like, what if they do something like this? By the time Carol gets there to this island, it's like, where is my friend? He was here. And they're like, he just took a boat and now he's off to, I don't know, Italy or something. Because remember, we do know they have plans to go to other locations in Europe. Will it happen in this season? I don't know. But we do know because it also got approved for season 3. Right? That was it. So it's going to keep moving. And that's my whole thing. I don't want that it's going to be constantly one of those situations where, oh, you just missed him. He was right here. Oh man, you blinked and he walked away. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't want that because then it's always going to be the split and her trying to find him and doing her own thing. I'm assuming Ash is going to stick around Why bother with this horrible backstory and all this stuff just to have him die once he gets there? Hey, we made it to France, and then a walker bites him from behind. I don't know. That'd be cheesy. But Rich, what did you think of this whole ending of this episode?
I thought it ended pretty good. I like the idea of the plane and the zombie getting thrown into the propeller. I thought that was cool. Yeah, I'm just curious to see where they go from here. Definitely a lot of excitement to see what happens on Daryl's end as well. So, yeah, I just want to see how they continue to tell the story throughout the next 5 episodes.
Yeah, and that's it, right? This was always going to be tough. We talked about it. It's a tough sell of how did Daryl get to France. Now, how did Carol get to France? Well, now we know. Now, Carol's still en route. We see how that worked. Whatever. They could have done a better job with the story for it. It is what it is. It's past now. It's gone. Now we can just tell the story of their adventure and see how that plays out. I'm looking forward to it. When it comes to the overall story for this, though, how excited are you with it, how it's playing out? Because we now have 2 different stories. We have the story with the kid and the real purpose for this kid with this cult, right? We'll call it a cult because they don't really say what denomination they're following. They're just like, he's a chosen one for whatever purpose. I know they had the nun and the priest and all, but I think there's something else going on with these people, with him, because they're not really referring to parts of the Bible like, oh, it says here the second coming, and it would be that they're not really going down that road with this. So I think there's that. And then we have the bad guys who's trying to hunt them down to kill everyone and do all that stuff. So we have those 2. I feel we're missing a piece. Something else has to be added or connected to really put some oomph into this show going forward. This was fine. This was the setup. You had to do it. You had to get it out the way. But now we got to really figure this out and how this whole thing is going to work. So I really hope it does work out. But overall, I say I give this, I don't know, I give this, I'll say like a B+. It would have been an A if they would have had a better backstory for Ash. Why couldn't they just make him a badass pilot or a former military pilot? Go that route. So he's good with guns and other things, who's just depressed and locked himself in a hangar because it was fortified already. Instead of just making him some wandering guy who just knows how to fix planes and stuff. All right, so he's creative and he's good with, his hands and figuring things out, but we don't know where he got these skills from. He didn't give a backstory on how he was able to pull this off, because not anybody can do that. I don't care about if we locked you up in a bookstore, you could come out, knowing all kinds of stuff. Well, you have to be motivated to read those type of books, and your brain has to understand how to comprehend that and put that into effect, right? You can't just do it. Oh, it bothers me. It really bothers me. But hey, we have 5 more episodes for him to spew all that stuff and maybe fill out some of the holes during the flight and then taking their adventure. So, all right. Well, people, I guess you said your piece. Carlos said your piece about how do you think this is. What's your score on this, Carlos and Rich? Carlos, you go first.
So we're giving it a numeric score or a letter
I
score?
figured we do it a letter. We'll do it a letter because everybody knows letters if we're grading things. I gave it that B-. Or no, I gave it B+. My bad. Sorry, B+. Not quite a day.
I give it a C+. It was good in terms of I feel like most of the Carol stuff was good. Just the way the pacing was in that episode, I felt like Carol the actress did a good job. So was Ash. They were both pretty good. Did pretty good acting in that episode. I just felt like some of the story points in terms of Ash's character. I agree with you. I'm not a. It's like, I started flying planes because my kid loved planes. It just seems. I mean, I don't know, man. That's too big of a leap for me. But yeah, and obviously the Daryl stuff. It was, it was good until until the bad lady escaped by the dumbest way. So yeah, C plus. Also, want to make a quick reference. The shout out to the dude with a stick. I feel like they may be making him the final villain. I don't know why. I just get those vibes.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. There's something going on with him. And even when he had that little one-on-one with that other woman, and they were like, "Oh, is the boy ready?" He's like, "No, he's not ready, and we're not ready." Like that type of thing. Wait, what? You just give this whole speech to Daryl about, "Oh, we don't like to strike first. We strike last, and maybe that'll be the strike last." All right, thanks for bringing back our people, and I'll whack to the head. There you go. We'll send you back to America.
A wise man once said, "If you walk in with that stick, it ain't Andre 3K." That's how you know he's evil.
That's it. That's how you know. All right, Rich, what's your score?
Yeah, I also would give it a C plus. There's a lot of the stuff that Carlos said I agree with 100%. I thought it was still a good episode. I think they can do a lot better. So I'm definitely expecting to have a higher score from here on out. But not bad as far as starting things out. But let's see where everything goes.
All right. Let's just say great. I think it's great, right? We don't say score is always with the number. Great. Yeah. What's our grade? So it's our correction. All right. So, and you people, go ahead, leave in the comments and stuff. What's your grade for this episode? And where do you see this season going? I think it's going to get better. Already the production is a lot better. And it makes sense because they don't have to film so many other episodes. So then they can condense everything, put a little more into the budget because you're not spreading it out on 16, 17, whatever. It just seems like there's more care in these episodes. They're very well packaged, put together, more thought. Maybe not so much with the writing as we just said, but the acting is on point. The audio work is on point. The set design, it doesn't look cheap. Everything, it doesn't look like it's at a back lot in where they used to film in Atlanta, right? Over in those parts. And we know this is all filmed on location in France. So that's something else to take note. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this goes. We already know there is, like I mentioned, season 3. So the whole story is not going to be told here, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes. And we also didn't see the Mr. Big Bad, which is what we were calling him. Remember? The other French dude, the evil dude that was causing all the problems.
Yeah, from the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, from the beginning, the one that was hunting him down. So at the monastery and all that stuff. So anyway, thanks again, everybody, for still sticking with us and then tuning in over on the YouTube channel and on Spotify and iTunes, and then just coming back for more Walking Dead, because that's right. We stuck around, and you should be proud that you're still following this as well. Don't listen to those Debbie Downers that want to poo-poo this product. This is dead because the mothership is finished. For now, I wouldn't be surprised if we see it come back. I'm telling you, I'm not putting it past AMC to hey, you know what? If let's say this takes off, Dead City comes back, which we know is coming for season 2, and let's say that does well, and so they say, hey, let's do like a reunion show, and then they do a reunion show. If that kicks off, and that does well, but we're all back at the Commonwealth. We'll figure a new story out. Case in point with all that, we got it going on with Dexter, right? We got like 2 more shows for Dexter. That dude died twice, and they're like, no, we can't let him die. So whatever. They keep bringing it back. I'm not saying it's good or bad. Maybe that was a bad example because I think it's going to be bad, but I'm still all for this universe. These cast members are so relevant to me. And I think we're okay watching them on their own shows. And if you're looking to watch something else within this dark realm, please check out From. From is that's a really good show. So go check that out. There's a guy, friend of the show, Steve Varley, over on YouTube. Go tell him I sent you, that Adam from the Koalition sent you over. He's doing a great job covering that show. So go and support him, another New Yorker. All right, everybody. Peace. Thanks again for supporting us on all these platforms and all this. Leave your comments. Thanks for subbing and all that jazz. It's been cool. We will be back next week for episode 2 of the Daryl Dixon. Oh, I was going to say Daryl Dixon story, but it's Daryl Dixon, the Book of Carol, which sort of makes it sound like a spinoff of a spinoff.
It right? Is a spinoff of a spinoff.
It's a spinoff of a spinoff. All right, people. Peace.
Peace.